Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I just want to talk about something that I have seen and I just want to give my opinion about. All right, and that is xenophobia in Spain. Alright guys, so before I actually get into the video, I want to say I hope you all are doing well. I hope you've had a good week and I hope you have a good weekend. I also want to mention, alright, that I recently opened up my online store. I don't even think I mentioned that before, but I started selling products for home storage and organization. And if you're interested, I will go ahead and leave the link in the description box. All right, now that that promo is done, let's just get started into this topic, okay? So, xenophobia. Xenophobia, if you don't know, it's when there's discrimination against a group based on their nationality, where they're from. All right, so not racism, because xenophobia, you can be of any race, but if you're from a certain country, people may have an issue. Now, Spain generally is a very peaceful country. There's hardly any violence. I haven't encountered racism. If you're interested about more about, being someone of color, I did do a video about that. You can check out here, I think, wherever that strip comes from. Yeah, and you can learn more about that. So, xenophobia. I will admit I have seen xenophobia, and I've seen xenophobia more towards people from Africa and Arabs, especially Arabs, and I don't know why. Okay, well, I have an idea why, but I don't exactly agree with it. Here in the Canary Islands, there are a lot of people from Morocco, just a lot of Arabic people, and some of them come here illegally, just like other people from Africa. And I've heard people talk bad about them and say things like, "Oh, they're stealing our jobs and they're doing all these things." And I said, "Oh my God, this is the same thing I hear in the United States." But I haven't seen any direct violence towards this group of people. But I have seen different treatment. I have seen police question them. I have seen, for example, when I was in Madrid, I was living in an area that was very multicultural, called Lavapiés, and the police would always go through this area. And I remember some people told me that it used to be a very dangerous area. There were lots of drugs. Um, in my experience, it wasn't like that at all. There were lots of people out, but yeah, police were always there. I remember you'll see like Africans selling different things, and the police will, always stop and check. And I don't see this happening with other nationalities. So, even like being, an African American, and I've heard other African Americans say the same thing. Once people realize that we're American, the treatment is completely different. And this is something that we have to be aware of, because we are privileged in this sense, because Americans or English people, or, if you come from other parts of Europe or Canadian, no one bothers you. No one will bother you. No one will say anything. I have gotten some comments because there were people, some Spanish people mistake me for being Arab. And I'm like, no, I'm not Arab. And then when I tell them this, their attitude completely changes. At first, I thought it was my imagination. And then I started to hear other foreigners say the same thing. For example, I went to the hospital for a checkup, and I remember the doctor. She was a blonde, tall, English white woman. She's lived here for 6 or 7 years, I think. And we were having a conversation, and she actually brought this topic up, and she said, "Did you notice that there's a lot of discrimination against Arab people, or African people, or things like that?" No, she said Arab, particularly Moroccan. She said, and she said it's weird, and I said, "Yeah, it is weird." And I see on the news that yes, there's an immigration problem where a lot of illegal people come here, but and they just happen, the majority just happen to be of Arab descent or African descent. But you'll have people from other countries that are illegal too, and like the United States or other countries, and they don't have any issues at all. I can say that I try to contemplate, and always when things like this happen, I try to contemplate and think, you know, where is this coming from? Why? And I've heard some Spanish people say, because they're Muslim and they treat their women like this or like that. And a lot of them don't even know Arab people, you know what I mean? And I know lots of Arab people, and it's like, we have to respect other cultures. Some Spanish people say they don't respect the culture, they come here, they don't learn the language, but I'm like, so does a lot of Americans, and a lot of English, and a lot of other people, a lot of German people. There's tons of people I met that come here, have lived here for so many years, doesn't speak a word of Spanish. They don't want to integrate, you know. When I was in Barcelona 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, there was a terrorist attack. And I remember this group of people, and they were Arab. They got into a car and they just ran people over that were outside eating at restaurants, and people were dead. And this sparked a lot of hatred too. And I remember, and I thought about that. And my thing is, you have good and bad people in every single group, but we cannot generalize and say everybody is like this, okay? When I taught English in the academy, I had African students, I've had Indian students, I've had Arab students, I've had all sorts of students. And I didn't think, when I saw, like, for example, the Moroccan students, I didn't think, okay, well, they're here, they don't have papers, they were adults. My thought was they want to learn English, they want to improve themselves, they were very nice, and their money is just as good as anybody else's. So they were paying me, didn't have a problem. So, and then, there are things like, for example, I have been in places where I've waited in line, and there are Arab people that will cut and just say, well, I have things to do, like as if we don't have things to do. And that annoys people. But I've seen Spanish people do the same thing, just say, hey, you need to get in line. I have things to do too. So I don't know. It's a tricky situation, and it makes me sad because you see, for example, here we have a lot of squatters, and there's a lot of abandoned buildings, and some of the people are Arab, but it's like, I think, okay, people come here because they want better opportunities, they want a better life. I have not had any problems with any other foreigners. No one has tried to harm me or do anything. And I just think that we have to open up our minds a bit, and understand that there's good and bad everywhere. I mean, even Spain, there used to be a terrorist group that were Spanish and in northern Spain, and they would kill people. They have killed people. They've blown buildings up for people that didn't believe in their extremist ideas. This group doesn't exist today, but it did. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that all Spanish people are terrorists, or they're all bad. So I think that sometimes this mentality happens when we don't know people from this group. You know what I mean? We don't have friends from this group, or colleagues, and we only know what we see on TV. And the media can really twist things. So then when we see something like this in person, when we see these types of people that we saw on TV, you know, our minds think, okay, well, be careful, they're like this, you know what I mean? And that's not the case. So yeah, I think that xenophobia does exist here in Spain. But again, I haven't seen it to the extreme where people were, you know, attacking Muslims or, you know, anyone from these types of groups out in the streets or anything like that. They may get stares. They may not, you know, people may not want to talk to them, things like that. But this is something we have to resolve because we're all human, we're all in this together, we're all connected. All right, so that's all I have about xenophobia. If you have any questions, any comments, please feel free. You know, I read them. And that being said, I hope you have a good weekend, and I will see you in my next video. Hasta luego. Ciao.